Hello and welcome. This will be a review of one of the lower rated animes I've seen, and me explaining why I don't like the spider anime as much as other people. Because, see, it's got a rating of 7.46. I rated it a 4, I'm a spider, so what? See, the logic behind the anime seems very much like the slime anime with Rimuru, how they're in like the monster forms and they've got to level up and become something with a human body. Which at first it seemed like it was going to be. It seemed like it looked with the art, it was going to be able to pull it off quite well. And the art style itself isn't bad. I don't really have much fault with the art style and how it's pulled off. Some things I think could be done a bit cleaner, but the art style overall was a clean art style, and that's really the only reason I've given it a 4 rather than a 1. Because overall, this anime was just confusing. The way it jumps around from one location to a different time, a different location, with a different character at a different location, and it just kept jumping around, and it did that for all of the anime except for the last episode, where the last episode it made sense, it pulled it all together, and then left it on a cliffhanger that really, like, I reckon after that last episode it was finally going to become decent, and I reckon after that it would have pulled its score up with all the rubbish that happens beforehand with it. And that's kind of the problem, is I don't like these animes that get confusing with timelines and all that. I'd rather a linear one which can just sort of show me someone progressing continuously. Like pretty much most other animes. The slime anime did show him going forward through his evolutions. The only time it went back on itself a bit was when it added the slime diaries, which was something that no one really knew was coming up. And they pulled that off really well as a filler bit in between the two halves of the second season. Whereas this, like, if I go to the review section of it, and like you think about it here, the art style is definitely up there with like a 7 or an 8. Well, no, the art style is up there at 7, 8. The story, I put as a 1 because the logic behind it makes sense. The execution seems off. I don't know if this is because I haven't seen the manga or read the light novel, but it feels like it's just jumbled up in a confusing method just to speed it up through. And not always speeding something up doesn't always help an anime. And the characters on their own is like, they're not really standout-ish, and just not that great. That might be because like I'm comparing it to stuff with like anti heroes and that sort of stuff, and evil characters as the main character, or monsters as the main character. But in a monster standpoint, the spider anime just doesn't meet. I think it would be better if it just held its storyline in the dungeon for the first full season and went through the explanation a lot more detailed, and then ended on like the Demon Lord fight. Whereas by jumping so quickly and so fast so that she becomes like the main image of what she is in the final episode, just makes it seem cluttered and out of order. So overall, the art's good, the story's bad, the characters not really memorable, and that's why they don't get high scores. I wouldn't give it like anything above a 5 for characters. At the moment, it's like 185. My enjoyment was pretty bad because I didn't understand where it was going from until the last episode, where they basically showed you where it was gone and explained everything. So it's like overall 4 might still be too high. I really don't know if I should knock that down. It could become something great. But compared to other things that have released, it's pretty dreadful. You think character-wise, my favourite one would be Ariel the Demon Lord. Not the main character, none of these people. Not those ones. And I'm guessing most of the people who rated it higher have read the novel and the manga, which may make it seem like more sensical out of a storyline. But for me, it's just like, we're here, we're there, we're here, there, we're back here, and then nothing made sense. And then when it did, they cut it off and ended it. Really, if they were going to speed through it like that, they should have done it in like 2 episodes and gone straight to the war arc. Because the rest of them are just clutter for me. If I want story, I want story. If I want fighting, I want fighting. I don't want it to be mashed together and ran through as fast as possible with stuff cut out of it, as people have told me, and stuff not explained. As if I wanted just a fighting thing outright, I would have watched a fighting anime that's a lot more action based than this would be, and would make more sense because it was designed like that. I know most people would disagree because it's got a high rating, so it's obviously done okay, but it just doesn't make any sense whatsoever, this anime. If it was just the last final episode, and that was the start point, and it carried on from there with that kind of method as that final episode, then maybe it would be sitting up there at a 7. But all of this, where it goes dungeon, dungeon, non-dungeon, dungeon, non-dungeon, 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 it's like, why are we looking at these people who, they come in later, but with the reveals that have happened with the spider that we haven't seen, and then at the end we're just like, oh, so this is what's happened to everything. Wish that made more sense, because the first thing that's hard to understand is the spiders, when it's that small, it is so much earlier in the storyline, like ridiculously earlier. So they've jumped many years to accelerate through it, which makes no sense to someone who hasn't read either of the 2 things that come with it. And I'm not going to go back and read it because it's left such a poor, like, stain on my list of what it is. There's only a few that I can think of that I dislike more than this, but it's not a lot. I'd rather watch just a generic harem. Like if I go to, let's go to the harem section. There's going to be one. There's always a couple. Where is it? There it is. Sort by score. Let's jump back a few. Yeah, I reckon any on this page would be better than that anime. That just proves hundreds down here. So I definitely agree it's better than the spider anime. I'd rather have to watch that 100 times of Redo of a Healer than the spider anime again. Because it just did not make sense whatsoever. Actually, there are a fair few of these I've seen I'd prefer over the spider anime. And they're all rated at 6s, so I don't know how the hell it's got a 7. 0.4. So that's my opinion on that anime and why I hate it so much. The only thing good about it is the art. Other than that, I think it should have just not been made. Because it just doesn't do well compared to others. I don't know why it's so highly rated. It just makes no sense until that final episode where they cliffhang it, which annoys me even more when I think about it. But I'm going to leave it as a 4 just because the art style does seem nice. But I doubt it will ever go up. If anything, it might go down if I decide that it's that much worse. It's like the studio. What's the studio actually made? Oh god, that season of Berserk. That's definitely not a good thing. So they're the ones that made the 3D Berserk and a load of other stuff. And that is their highest rated thing. What about the producers? What else do these guys do? Oh, that explains a lot. The producers bloody do Fate. That can't make no sense. Well, they're the ones that buy it all. Yeah, the Spider anime definitely could have been done better. It definitely does not deserve that high of a rank. We scroll down, where is it? It'll be somewhere over here, won't it? 7.6. Yeah, there were just so many better than it. So that's my opinion on that anime, which I know will be highly disliked by the looks of it. I don't know if it will show me the averages. No, it won't. Or at least I don't know how to. Stats. Oh, there we go. So most people put it in the 7 to 8 region, which I think is insane. For that to get 7 or 8, it would need to be like as good as some of the 7 and 8s that I've got on my list. Which I don't think, there probably isn't one that I rated there that I wouldn't. Let's go all the way down to the 7s. Yeah, I don't, it's definitely not a 7 or 8. To me, it makes Infinite Stratos look like a 10 because at least Infinite Stratos was enjoyable out of the animes. That's what I'm going to call it on my rant on that anime. If it had just made the timeline more logical and more linear, it probably would have done fine. But scrambled egg timeline makes no fucking sense. It's the one thing I hate most when animes do it. There are only a few that I know that can jump around locations and time a bit more willy-nilly and have done it well, and well enough for me not to rate them down on it. So that's my opinion. If most people will disagree, but if you liked my opinion, like and subscribe. If you didn't, tell me why, because I still don't get the logic behind that anime, and I'm guessing it's only the people who've read the manga and light novel that understand it and have rated it high. But then again, I don't know, maybe people have found odd things with it they like. But that's that for this rant on that anime. What are you doing? What are you doing, little kitty? Wait, no, that's a headphones wire. I'd love. Ay, 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 ay.